Elections are around the corner, and the political season is in full swing. Hello, I'm Bill Rosendahl. Century Communications believes it's important we hear more about the issues and the candidates than just sound bites and 30-second commercials. Over the coming weeks, the Century Channel will be presenting programs and debates on the propositions and the candidates for local, state, and national office. Watch the Century Channel so you'll be ready to decide what kind of government you want. So, Michael Feinstein, good to have you.
Thank you.
The Green Party, you heard our discussion at the top of the hour about third parties. Nobody talks about Green Party. I must admit, they talk about other things when they talk third party. First of all, tell us about the Green Party and what is Ralph Nader's strategy with it?
Sure. The Green Party is a party that's on the ballot here in California. We're organized in 50 states. We're in 75 countries around the planet. And our basic values are ecology, social justice, grassroots democracy, and nonviolence. We've been spending several years building from the bottom up, running city council races, school boards, etc. Now it's time, with the political direction of the country up for grabs, as Pat was saying before, with all the insecurity. It's time to enter the dialogue, not abdicate our responsibility, but try and shift the debate. Ralph Nader is somebody who everyone knows. He's got credibility, integrity, so that he's not going to be able to be typecast or stereotyped by the powers that be to eliminate his message. So here's somebody who, as a vehicle to communicate to the country and shift the debate, offers the perfect candidate, the anti-candidate almost.
Mike, I hate to be
wait a minute, before you jump in.
Ralph doesn't have that much credibility with me.
Yeah, I was going to say, some people question his credibility with the Trial Lawyers Association, especially in these three props. Right. They're saying that he's behind it.
Let me just say this about Nader. The fact is, with all that is with the public, he's still very popular for one reason. He's the last honest man in Washington, basically. Whatever he wants about...
Well, okay, well, just keep that point. Let me just say that we did a show here, and Ralph was here, and when he left the show, he went and signed some papers.
Yes.
And that papers go to the Secretary of State of California. Now, what was that about?
What it's about is Ralph Nader is not only on the Green Party ballot in the primary, but if you're a registered Republican, Democrat, Peace and Freedom, Libertarian, or Reform Party, you can write Ralph Nader in. There's a little envelope that your card comes in, and you write Ralph Nader for President of the United States.
How much vote do you expect him to get in the primary in March?
What we're doing with this write-in strategy is we want to give more people the chance to have ownership of this candidacy.
But what percentage do you expect him
I don't
to
think
get?
we can't speculate on that. We're starting just in the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's why I'm asking. What
Sure.
Are you hoping to get 5%, 10%? What's your expectation?
See, let me answer it this way. First of all, obviously, we hope we get good numbers. Ralph understands that for a candidacy to change this country, he's famous. He could go out, get a big percentage of the vote, and have everybody euphoric. But if it's simply a candidate-driven process, I'm up there, it isn't going to change because we've got a top-down society. So what Ralph is doing is saying, this is a people's campaign. If you build it, I will come, I will follow, I will be your candidate.
So if he doesn't want to be president, is he trying to pull Clinton to the left? What is he trying to do?
Let me address that, but therefore, and I didn't say he didn't want to be president, therefore, what's happening is Ralph is allowing other people, not just in the Green Party. See, there's all kinds, Pat again is talking about these economic problems. There's all kinds of solutions out there that don't get into our political system because we have a corporate-dominated economy, and people don't get heard. Ralph is running on a pro-democracy agenda to break open two-party duopoly, get views out there, perspectives that people are not hearing. And at that point, that is the kind of agenda that people across political parties will respond to. So he wants to have the ability for people to write him in other parties so people can start having investor in this process.
So are you planning to get on all 50 state ballots for the fall campaign where you will see the name Ralph Nader on it?
Is he going to run? Has he agreed to do it?
Yes, we are.
As a write-in?
No,
as a candidate.
Ralph is doing the write-in in our primary in California. As far as the campaign across the country, again, if we build it, he will come. So he's not going to come out and just say...
He sounds like Ross Perot, who went out to the people and said, if you show me you want me, then I'm going to run. Is that what it is? Is that another Perot deal?
Well, it's Ralph doing his own...
Where's the money in this campaign? Where's the strategy? Where's the organization?
I think that this is a real... I think that Ralph should stop screwing around with this. Because that's what I want to tell you I think is going on here. I think he should stop screwing around with it. If he's going to do it, he should do it. If he's not, he should get out. Because the fact is, when we're talking about Buchanan, the reason there's going to have to be a candidate on the left is, you see, Clinton cannot... The reason there's no challenge to Bill Clinton, think about this. Jimmy Carter was challenged. He was a sitting president, had a challenge from Edward Kennedy. Every Democratic president generally gets one. Here's Bill Clinton, who has a lot of problems in the Democratic Party, and with a lot of constituencies in the party, is unchallenged. It's not because he's popular, it's because the party's dead.
Well, there's one other reason. I think that because the Republicans won in the Congress in '94, you have a lot of hungry Democrats, and they don't want to lose anymore.
But there's something, but you don't understand. Let me just talk about my party. I know what was my party. Let me tell you something. There are people who believe in things, And the fact is, that would not have stopped. They would have argued that, in fact, the lack of a voice. I know somebody who considered running and didn't, who would have been a serious candidate, was a sitting senator, who almost did it.
Bradley.
No, no, it wasn't. I can't say. But the fact is, it was much further to the left. The fact is, if Buchanan's on the ballot, not to have, that makes it okay to have, let me tell you why I think it does. It makes it okay to have a very liberal candidate, because then people can say, we're just canceling this out. Clinton wants to win. People don't care about whether he would say, well, you win with the other.
Are you saying that if Ralph Nader does appear on all 50 state ballots as a Green candidate, a legitimate candidate, he will pull from Bill Clinton from the left?
What I'm saying is there's going to be a balance to it at that point, because I think you still may get Perot in it. I think you may have 3 third-party candidates, one in the middle, one on the left, and one on the right. And I'm just telling you, the dynamics are such, if Buchanan runs, which I believe he does, then the argument in a psychological way, just follow me a second, it frees up. Because then people say, I can vote for Ralph Nader without having to worry that I'm electing Bob Dole. Let those two guys fight it out in the middle. I'm going to vote for what I want to do.
I think it's really clear, except for the consumer issue, for the general public, what Ralph Nader stands for.
Trade.
I mean,
right,
you may know that he's very liberal, and all of us may know that, but, you know, what does he stand for exactly, besides consumers?
Campaign finance reform, solar energy, anti-NAFTA GATT, pro-democracy, town hall style democracy. You know, there is
anti-corporation,
anti-corporate breaking up.
Sounds like Buchanan.
See, right. The difference.
No, see, I mean, no, if you ask Buchanan what he stands for,
okay. Check this out.
The circle has closed.
We are in the early stages of a populist revolution in this country, and the fact that Ralph is running this year allows the populism not to be defined only by Perot and Buchanan from their side of the spectrum, but it's going to be defined from a progressive standpoint. That's why it is so important for Nader to run. If we don't, with the economy collapsing as it is, we are only going to get a reactionary populism, aka Buchanan, if we don't get somebody like Ralph to shift the dialogue.
I think that your populism is just as reactionary. I mean, you're against free trade. Perot's against free trade.
We're for fair trade.
That's a cliche.
No, it's not a cliche.
No,
because see, the difference is it has been a false debate by saying that it is, quote, protectionism versus free trade. Who wrote NAFTA and GATT? You had multinational corporations at the table, and they wrote the rules. We want to trade with other countries, but we do not want to disempower people in other countries. We want to have, you know, the people.
The only difference between what you're saying and Pat Buchanan is Pat Buchanan would come up with 3 or 4 Jewish surnames connected with the multinational corporations. It's this whole conspiracy.
Arnie,
they're all in a smoke-filled
room. Not fair. That's not fair at all.
Excuse me, Marty. Let me just say that's bull. Let me just tell you something. The fact is, this has been going on. One of the things going on wrong in this country is we have these labels running around. You're running around saying it's free trade, it's fair trade, no such thing.
Well, he says
the fact of the matter is,
you don't think that's
Disraeli said, let me just say this, Disraeli said, fair trade is not a principle, it's an expedient. For free trade.
Look, I agree with you.
The point is, the fact is, there are real serious problems with our trade issue. We are getting our rear ends killed right now in trade, and I don't want to get into his part about the multinational part. I will tell you the lack of common sense in this country, the fact that our people are so ideologically crazy on this issue that they, and I'm talking about liberals and conservatives alike, that they don't understand that we are not using our normal American common sense, and we are getting killed, and we're getting used.
Look, let me agree with you on one thing. There is a problem with GATT and NAFTA that you have all these lobbyists, all these corporations influence. I'm not for the federal government and all these banks. There ought to be true free trade. I'd go one step farther. But there is a reactionary protectionism, and you may not be for restricting immigration. You probably are not there. But it's all part and parcel of this nativist looking inside there at us versus them.
But I want to ask you something. I'm kind of curious. Bottom line, if we have all these candidates for president, you think the whole country's coming apart. Is this any good for America? All of this discussion?
When you have only 36% of the people voting in the congressional elections in 1994, you don't have all the voices at the table. This country is so diverse, this state is so diverse, and we don't have all the perspectives. Arnie disagrees with Ralph. I think Ralph is great. We need to be both at the table. The Green Party's not at the table. A lot of other parties aren't at the table, and we need to go through a process where we break open the duopoly that we have. We need multi-party democracy. We need proportional representation. We need campaign finance reform. You have stable governments around the world, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, others, who have different electoral systems, who have multi-party democracy. That's where we have to move. People are
we ready for that?
Are we ready? Are we ready for the collapse?
I'm not against multi-party.
Explain proportional representation, how that works in bringing more parties into the process.
Systems. Almost everybody's votes count, because essentially, if you get 10% of the vote, your party gets 10% of the seats. We have it now where you have to get a plurality or 51% of the vote. So not only do you have the 49% as losers, but it really creates systems where you only have two parties.
But with the system we have, if you have 5 candidates, nobody's going to win the presidency.
Right, I mean, the bottom line is it'll have to go back to the
the Congress
No,
then.
no. In terms of the presidency, there are also forms of proportional representation where you have transferable votes.
But
so
we
that
don't have that form right now. So if you have 5 parties running now, or 6 parties running now,
just as you said on an earlier show when we had another Green here talking about proportional representation, and you indicated that Clinton won with a minority of the vote. When you have a transferable vote system, the votes can transfer. So some people may choose to vote for Clinton and then transfer to Ralph, or Ralph and then transfer to Clinton, and ultimately you transfer up and you have a majority and more people have an ownership. It's going to be a great thing this year if we have 5 candidates and the winner comes in with 30% of the vote, or 32% like you saw in the Philippines a couple years ago. That is going to break it open, and we're going to start changing the laws here, and we're going to get an electoral system. We're going to get an electoral system that is going to be fair and allow diversities of views to get into the play.
And
we don't have that now.
People will vote? Is that your assumption?
In proportional representation countries, 70 to 90% of the electorate vote all over the planet, not just in Western Europe.
It's so easy to vote here in California and the United States.
I mean, your vote doesn't count. Your vote doesn't count. Your vote doesn't count in a system.
You know, I'd like to get back to Ralph Nader. If he wants to run, and he has positions, why doesn't he get out there?
Again.
Why doesn't he talk about his positions? Why doesn't he go out there and campaign like everybody else who wants to be president in this country, instead of coming in the back door, well, if you decide you want to elect me and you go out there and do the work, I'll be your president.
Because if you go with the same model, you're going to get more of the same. Ralph understands.
He doesn't want to subject himself to the scrutiny.
Doesn't want to be subjected to the scrutiny.
Excuse me, but I am a little bit closer to the campaign, and I know what's happening. Ralph has agreed to go on not only in California, but Maine and New Mexico. He's about to go on in Colorado and Alaska. There are over 20 states that have sent in applications.
He's going to face a tough media in New Mexico.
What is happening is, rather than just saying, I'm the candidate, he is letting people in each state build coalitions, real coalitions, which will build a base. And that process is underway. Right. And you're not, he's going to say he's going to run when we've built enough. We don't,
this is the Ross Perot nonsense of being up on high and the people are going to come to me.
First of all, as far as whether it's nonsense or not, I prefer a more accountable bottom-up economy and society. But number 2, if you remember, Perot was ahead in '92 until he bailed. Ralph doesn't need to be out there yet. Let the Republicans beat up on each other and let people really see how boring it is to have Clinton and Dole. And I call them Clinton Dole because I think they're 2 wings of the same party and that there aren't really alternatives. Let the public really see that for a little while. Then Ralph comes in late spring when we're already on the ballot in a lot of places. People are going to say, oh my God.
Let me ask you a question that was brought up. And this is a serious question, knowing that I'm for these Props 200. People are very, very skeptical of lawyers and all the litigation we have. How does Ralph Nader deal with the fact that he's funded by the trial lawyers as beholden to them? Isn't that a relevant issue?
Number 1, he's not funded, and number 2, he's not beholden. But what Ralph does do is he wants to make sure that under our economic system that people have the right of redress, and you don't see the sponsors of these initiatives trying to restrain corporate lawyers. You're seeing them trying to restrain people who can protect regular people. And with the size of corporations, one of the only options we have, unfortunately because we do not have a democratic society and a democratic economy, is to turn to lawyers. Ralph is not paid by anybody. The guy lives a simple life, and he criticizes trial lawyers when they're in the wrong. But it is the corporate lawyers and it's corporate crime and corporate welfare that's the issue this year.
I just have to say one thing. I think we do have a pretty, our democracy may be flawed, and I'm not going to say it's perfect, but I don't want the segment to end with anybody suggesting that the Philippines has a better democracy than we do in America. I think we're damn lucky to have a country like we do, and I think we have some very, very good democracy that has lasted a long time. Yes, do we need to improve, but I think we've got a pretty democratic country.
And we're lucky, and we're lucky then so that people can vote for Ralph Nader, and they can write him in the primary, Ralph Nader for president.
Okay, all right, listen, and viewers, I did an interview here with Ralph Nader, a half-hour show in this studio. It's quite fascinating. We are running it in conjunction with the election specials. I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Best of luck in what you're doing. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.